decade, if we say that India has the fourth largest manufacturer of consumer vehicle by output. And that itself shows that India is not just a market for meeting the demand and to do business, but from the land of India made for a global. And that is testament for the fact that the Volkswagen, a European company, which has sold more cars from the India to the global market rather than as compared to the sold to the Indian consumer.
Could you highlight some of the strategies and approaches that need to be navigated by EU companies, the complexities there?
First of all, any companies, not just the EU companies, especially the foreign companies, when they want to enter to India market, I would say there are two primary regulators that needs to be, keep in mind while complying with all rules and regulation, apart from other laws. One is DPIT, Department for Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade, which supervises and regulates all the investments in the country. And another is a Reserve Bank of India, which is by and large into the foreign exchange managements and which related to the money side of a foreign investment in India. And when it comes to the foreign direct investments in the capital market, the SEBI regulator comes into picture. Now, apart from these regulators, the routine legal compliances that is applicable, just like a typical operating company in any other companies, based on your structures, based on your industry that you operate in. So example, if it is a company that is not going to be established in India, then the Companies Act. Then industry, in example, perhaps the automobile industry, like the Environment Protection, then Central Vehicle, Motor Vehicle Act, and so on. And the last but not least, any operations, the crucial aspect is a fiscal, which is taxations, direct tax, indirect tax, custom duties, and the capital gain tax, and the various other taxes that is applicable perhaps to the operation.
And what about the complexities, though? Can you highlight some of the strategic approaches to navigate the complexities? You've mentioned the kind of the key people to approach and the government departments that need to be considered. But what are the complexities that need to be considered by EU companies?
Strategic approach for such a complex, I would say, legal and the fiscal environment, it is imperative for any foreign enterprise before entering Indian market, a thorough market research, analysis, due diligence, not just from a business perspective, but from a legal and the tax perspective. And we also believe and encourage the taxation policy or the fiscal policy of a company which is going to be based in India. It should be sound in compliance with the local laws, not just based on the, be it EU or other countries, but it has to be internationally as well as the locally accepted principle. That's important. And also from a side of a perspective of considering the partnership, joint venture or a collaboration with the local partners in India, which perhaps can help to build an ecosystem and which eventually at the end of the day, not just meeting the local demands, but they can also look for export from the India.
And let me ask you more specifically about the automobile sector. India is promoting foreign investment in the automobile sector. Can you elaborate on the incentives available to foreign automobile companies looking to set up manufacturing or other operations in India? And how do these incentives compare with the offering from other emerging markets?
First, I will answer it in two parts. First, I will say so that it is not a choice that to be a comparative. It is a choice and the need of ours to be a leader. So I do not say that in order to which other countries or the region is offering, so we should be better off. We should be better off what we were yesterday as a country or as a ecosystem. Coming back to the opportunity and that has given us a result that what are benefits which been given recently. So India is the fourth largest manufacturer of the commercial vehicle in India by output as we speak today. And that means the opportunity is there. And the opportunity is cementing by giving us the facts that India has secured the third position in the world for securing the foreign direct investment. That itself is a testament to so that there's something at the grassroots level, the policy and the development is happening. Key challenges, which I will say the benefits that is offering. Recently the government of India has being announced for automobile industry, and that is paradigm shift is bringing in the automobile industry per se for India market. One is a production link incentive scheme, which is for fostering the manufacturing capabilities in the country and focusing on mainly into carbon emissions free vehicles, electric battery vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell and so on, which is given as approximately up to 18% of the annualized incremental sales, and total value of the $3 billion is being set aside as a subsidy for such companies. And second one is a FAME phase 2, which is basically for fostering more of a moving towards the goals towards a net zero and the carbon neutral electronic vehicle and the related infrastructure. Now, though we don't say per se that this region and this how we have to compare it, but if I have to say so, that the four key advantages that the India offers over other competitive market, one will be of low labor cost. Second is a highly trained labor, which is constantly upskilling steadily. Third is an industrialized nation. Those were the days where India were known by agriculture and the need only just a labor intensive country. But now the India is being leader in all walks of industries, be it a technology, pharma or automobile and so on. So in real sense, it is an industrialized nation moving towards the developed nations, right? And the infrastructure, which is plays a key role for any entrepreneur industries to operate. India is one of the fastest country in the world to build a road and bridges and the infrastructure. And the fourth, which for any entrepreneur, the most important of any business and enterprise is to securing the investment where you are investing it. So India, since our independence, we are being known as one of the safest region on the earth for protecting the trade, investments, and also fostering the human values.
I mean, as a complete package, you clearly think that India is the place that automobile companies should be investing. But they are, of course, looking around the world at those other markets, those other emerging markets, where it be Brazil or any number of other ones. So you want India to be the leader. You must therefore take into consideration what those other competitor countries around the world are doing. Don't you need to take those things into consideration to make sure that India is ahead of the game?
I do agree with you. What I meant is not to be a complete blind when it compares to what other emerging markets are developing. In terms of what I highlighted is, and India is also firm advocating believe is, what others are offering, we are not, but what we can offer as a country, as a 1.4 billion of the consumer market and the ecosystem that can make you, overall entrepreneur journey is rewarding. So that is what, and that's the result. What I'm saying is a testament from the fact that the Volkswagen company or the European company who's exported the more car than what they have sold it to the India, that itself shows the Indian capabilities for the make in India, made for the global, not just for domestic market.
And let me ask you about what the challenges that foreign automobile companies in particular encounter when setting up in India. Specific to this sector, what are the difficulties that they need to navigate when setting up either manufacturing or for other operations in India?
Any businesses, wherever we go, when it is on the ground reality, challenges will be there, and challenges are eventually part of our success journey. But nevertheless, yes, I do agree with you. The automobile industry, particularly in India, I will say challenges can be of a two set of challenges per se. One can be legal and regulatory, and other can be the industry related, which can be affected by macroeconomic factors and supply chain and so on. So one of the key challenges that all the automobile industries is currently in India is facing is complying with the new carbon emission standard BS6 phase 2, which is basically requiring all the manufacturers to be, all petrol cars to be reduce the carbon emission by 25% and the diesel car by 43%. Now here it is very fascinating when complying with such a robust carbon emission standards, rules and regulations, maintaining the quality and maintaining the low cost, being India being the sensitive market, it's completely contradictory. So that I see as a big bottleneck for any entrepreneurs automobile to operate in India. Second, I will say challenges of electronic segments, vehicles to operate in India. In per se, electronic vehicles requiring the batteries, that is lithium and the various other batteries, are having a demand and supply gap, which resulting into the increase in the electronic vehicle cost. Number two, due to increase of the electronic vehicle demand, the constant increase in demand for the electricity, which in turn puts pressure on the grid side. And third, the charging infrastructure, where the lack of having enough of the public infrastructures for charging electric vehicles, the private one has to resort to the private charging station, which perhaps is again more costly than the. So all put together, the putting the electronic vehicle segment is a very costly. But the recent government reforms, which gives a lot of incentives to consumers, those who are buying electronic vehicles, and even subsidies, interest form, and so on. But still, it's a long way to go to bridge the gap and fill these challenges. Third, I will say semiconductor challenges of semi, as we all know, in last couple of recent years, not just in Indian automobile makers, but across the globe, there is a shortage of semiconductor, and India is taking the cognizance of that, and India has taken a step towards developing indigenous our semiconductor mission, and which government has recently started the 3 units for developing the semiconductor, which will enable the India as one of the central focal point for ecosystem of the semiconductor. And fourth challenge, I will say, it is increasing the cost of inputs, like example coppers and so on. So collectively, all these are putting a pressure on the automobile makers. But considering the various opportunities that is being going, like India's population is being constantly being shifting from a lower middle class to a upper middle class and so on, I'm sure that will give us a lot of boost for the demand in the coming time.
Given the legal and the tax landscape in India, what precautions do you believe companies should take to safeguard their investments? You mentioned investments a bit earlier. And furthermore, from a legal standpoint, what measures should be considered as indicators of success for EU companies establishing themselves in the Indian market?
So for continuing the investments, or for a while at the time of entering the Indian market, it is imperative to, first of all, have a ground research about conductive and complete analysis. Second, it is very much important for securing the investments in terms of when partnering with the local partners or a joint ventures per se. Imperative to have a dispute resolution, the comfortable mechanism, the selection of a neutral country or a neutral choice, which perhaps can help to solve the disputes, if any, at a later stage. Then securing the technology. In today's world, technology transfer is one of the key aspects when any cross-border business happens. The technology is a key of any thriving enterprise, and that's why the securing it is a very important. And third, which is very much important, is from taxation perspective. So whenever we are entering into any new country or any market, it is imperative to not just follow tax on a paper, but on a reality or in substance also needs to be filled. When I say it, what I mean it is considering the BAP section plans, where the EU and India both are signatory, base erosion, profit shifting. So when someone is investing into India, it needs to be taken into consideration as a holistic view, not just from a perspective of the tax bottom line saving. That is just a minute aspects of entire operations given. And last but not the least, it goes on to one needs to secure their investments in a region. There are so many other things that needs to be considered apart from routine compliances, routine which is a continuous exercise, which cannot be one-time exercise.
And let me ask you about the conference itself that you've been taking part in. You've just been speaking the EU-India Leaders Conference. And how important is this conference to you that is held in the European Parliament? And some of these issues are raised here at the heart of the EU.
I was very fortunate, and I'm delighted to be at the European Parliament, where I was invited as a speaker at the India Leaders Conference 2024, where the 5th session is held today at the European Parliament on the auspicious partnership between Europe, India and the UK, global trade bilateral, where I spoke about broadly into the more legal and the regulatory aspect, being a subject matter expert, that how EU companies can navigate the complexity of the various legalities in India when they enter, and what all challenges they face and how they can mitigate. So I was really fortunate to interact with the prime ministers ex Romania, the member of European parliaments, and various diplomats and various entrepreneurs from the Europe and as well as from India. So indeed, this helps for fostering not just a relationship but building a future leaders, which paves the long-term relationship between both the countries.
And thinking about EU-India trade, of course, there was hope for a long time of an EU-India free trade agreement. Then that was kind of seen as too difficult. It was relaunched in 2022 as a slimmed down version. They're still not there. You obviously feel there's a lot of potential in the trade between the EU and India. What chances do you think there are of doing some kind of trade deal in the coming years from the conversations you've been having here in Brussels?
There was a panel discussion also was there with regards to this FTA agreement. In fact, both the member of parliament also highlighted the importance and the talks that is going on between both the government. So I would say from a perspective of that EU-India relationship, why it is strategically so important. Both the regions are natural allies in terms of business and the trade and economic relationship, which is testimony from the growing relationship that EU is right now India's third trade partner, which is valuing approximately 100 billion euro, and EU is the second most largest destination for the export from the India. So that's definitely without free trade agreement. If we reached here, then with the free trade agreement in the coming times, there are more things to do. Coming back to the free trade agreements, both the regions' leadership willingness is there. When the willingness is there, I am sure the talks will be going on for eliminating the various differences and different challenges and bottlenecks that are there in terms of data privacy that we touch upon in the panel discussions. That European side version of the data and India side more or less following the American side, and the variety of other things like custom barriers, duties and tariffs, that is level playing field needs to be there. So I am sure in coming time we see that in 2 to 3 years at least the best version of the free trade agreement, and we either you or both the side, India side also, we will not be wanting for a shadow FTA agreement. We want it both as a win-win for both the region.
And just briefly, finally, your message perhaps to EU companies that are thinking about investing in India, what would you say to them directly if they're considering where to invest around the world, why they should go to and invest in India?
In terms of overall, not just automobile, but India as for investing market, currently if we see as a globally, India is the most secured and the safe region per se, and one of the fastest growing economy in the world. So when you will put your horses in the race, I am sure you will put where he or she has performed, right? Isn't it? So that's completely, and with the grassroots developments, economic policies, rules and regulation, and the stable government, which gives the confidence of that yes, you are welcome, you are protected, your investment is completely safe and secure, and giving you the red carpet, which is giving you to the gateway to the world, not just for India. So I'm hoping for a EU-India relationship to be growing leaps and bounds from here, and in coming 10 years, I'm sure India will be one of the top 3 partners for the EU for trade relation, and we see as a EU as one of the first and second partner for the exchange of trade relation.